What's up, Previews World? It's Wednesday. It's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for Previews World Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, and I have a whole lot of Free Comic Book Day news really quick. So, firstly, your weekly reminder that it is on Saturday, August 14th. I saw some people afraid that they missed it this past weekend. This past weekend was the first weekend in May. No Free Comic Book Day. You didn't miss it. You're fine. Don't worry about it. August 14th, though. Second thing, we finally got some cover art reveals from Marvel and also Dark Horse for their Critical Role Witcher, so you can check that out on our social media pages or on the Free Comic Book Day website. The cover art is amazing. And finally, tomorrow is 100 days out from Free Comic Book Day, which I feel like is exciting. We're slowly, chipping away at this.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. There's a lot of good news coming around. Actually, that cover is pretty cool, and you can take a look or take a deep dive by going on to freecomicbookday.com, of course, or for Previews World, either one. You keep freezing on me, Ash. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, that's fine. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Thank God we have two other guests on the show this week.
Jesus.
So when I can't figure out what's going on with you, I'll just defer to them. You know what? I was going to talk about this MCU trailer, but I already know that I'm going to get a blank stare from you and a big whatever. So I'm going to bring in our guest first. I'm going to bring in our guest first, and then we'll see if they're as excited as I am, because I need to fangirl GURL about this for a second. So
right, yes.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me introduce you to Bader.
Yes,
and Cesar of the Short Box Podcast, which is the easiest part to say here. What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Troy. Hey, Ashton.
Hello. So far, so good. Happy to be here.
All right. No, actually, it's good to see you guys again. I was just on your show, 2 weeks ago? I want to say. Yeah, which is kind of like a happy accident because we had already set this up beforehand. But, they were great hosts. They got a great podcast over there. But you guys are only a section of your team, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
okay.
We got about 2 to 3 other longtime friends as part of this. Ashley and Ed and Drew as well.
Yep.
All right, cool. So before we dive into really dorky stuff, right? Let's dive into the very, 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 very dorky stuff. All right. So we have guests on the show. We try to throw a few one particular question at them, which is, what type of nerd are you? So I'm gonna go left to right. Well, at least my left to your right. I'm gonna start with you, Bader. What type of geek are you? What is your wheelhouse? What is the realm that you play in terms of nerdness?
I have 2, and maybe I've got 2 primary wheelhouses that I feel I'm very confident in when it comes to my nerdiness, and that is comic books, primarily the big Crimson Red M, Marvel, but all types of comic books at this point. But comic books and hip hop tend to be my 2 kind of nerdy wheelhouses that I can feel like you can throw me in with the gurus and the know-it-alls and the amateurs, and I can kind of fend for myself there. So comic books and hip hop.
That's true, dude.
Nice. I like that. It's a nice melding right there. Those things actually going hand in hand, believe it or not. Cesar, what about you?
So as far as my specific brand of nerdiness, I would have to say movies. I love movies, films, and I'm a huge cinephile. I'm the guy that has been watching movies for so long that now just give me a weird Miramax independent film from the 90s that has a vague title like the Butcher's Mandolin, and I'll just take my heart medicine and just relax and enjoy it.
He's also the resident old guy on our show as well.
Yes.
So any reference past from the 70s, 80s, and 90s,
absolutely,
defer to Cesar.
All right, I respect it. I'm okay. I'm used to being the resident old guy in here. Ashton's the youngest. Johnny chimes in occasionally, and then we both shake our fist at clouds. But it's good to have company on this one, so that's all good. Actually, Butter, you said you like Marvel. Are you big on MCU? On the MCU?
Come on, Troy. Imagine a Marvel comic fan that's MCU's all right. It's like, wait, what? No, I absolutely love the MCU.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. So did you see the trailer they dropped this past week? Because I got chills.
If you're saying that I shed a tear in my living room as my girlfriend watched me watch the trailer with people that I've never met in my life, absolutely, yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Right?
You sit there looking there like, we got the come up, baby.
Oh man,
that's kind of what it felt like.
No, absolutely. And to see this clip here, you know, from this movie scene, or I'm sorry, this movie theater scene of the end game, I was like, I can't believe we did not record our reaction. It just brought, every time I see this clip, it brings me back. I just get the goosebumps.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I occasionally browse YouTube just to watch Endgame reactions every now and then, just because I want to be there again. You know what I mean? Like I want that moment again, and like you'll never really get it. And I was like, well, this is one of the few times I could say thank God for YouTube, because just watching people thrilled to it.
Like you watch a really, really dark episode of Black Mirror and you're like, oh my God, I need to rinse this out.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's usually how it goes. It's either like something really dark for me, like serial killer documentaries, or MCU. That's like how wide I swing. Like, it's just like there's no real gray area with Troy, unfortunately. Out of all the movies that are coming out, then they kind of teased a slate that's going all the way to looks like 2023. Out of all the movies that are coming out, what are you guys into the most?
Well, you know, it's funny. And you made a comment earlier about Ashton. Maybe I might be in the same boat. Every time I see sort of like the slate of movies coming out, there's a part of me that's like, man, it's hard for me sometimes to not look at that, and it feels sort of a little corporate. And then I see something like this that gets released, and it's like, oh God, like I start to, I'm like, okay, this is getting me. So the thing I'm the most excited about is Multiverse of Madness, because my Marjorie and Raimi, and the Eternals, because I want to see jacked Kumail.
That's actually a very good point. What about you, Botter?
I think I gotta piggyback off the Eternals, only because it was a movie that I was like, there's no way they're gonna nail this.
How are they gonna do this?
There's too much star power. There's too much this. It's such a weird property. But just from that little bit of 5, maybe 7 second little teaser that we got, I was like, okay, this looks visually cool. So that's kind of half the battle. Let's see how the actual execution is.
Absolutely. What about you, Ashton? Which one are you looking forward to?
Firstly, I was like, I wonder if he's even going to ask me this question.
I'm trying to be fair here, because I know normally you're like, who cares? But yes, go ahead.
No, hold on. I feel like I need to defend this point, because it's not that I'm like, who cares? You know, like everybody else. I think it's interesting. I'm into it. I'm up to date. I've seen all of them. It's just, I think I'm in the minority of people that's starting to hit burnout on these. So I'm kind of like not as hype about it as I used to be. I feel kind of meh about it. I want to see Black Widow. Like, I'm really, in the market for like some tough, like female badass. I'm ready for that to come out. So I'm super excited for that one. I'm also interested to see kind of where they go with Black Panther. So those are probably the two I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned it. Because I'm actually very curious the direction they're going to go now, because they seem hell bent on not recasting him, despite what the internet says. I thought I was in the minority on this, like in terms of like they should recast Chadwick Boseman, but well, not Chadwick Boseman. They should recast T'Challa, but that would be awkward. But like apparently, I've seen a lot more people are just like, no, you should recast him. Like, so I guess Marvel's not really listening. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe things will change.
I'm personally glad that's a line in the sand that they're not willing to cross. I'm glad that
I agree with you.
Because then at some point I think it only leans more into that corporate feel where it's like, okay, so everyone is replaceable, despite the fact that a lot of these characters, for a lot of, even myself included, like they've fit the role so well, and they've given us so much, I think, emotionally, and you can kind of tell like that role means a lot to them. So I have to do something like Chadwick Boseman being replaced. I think it'd rub me it'd rub me in a weird way.
It'd be like if you see your favorite band that you grew up listening to, and then instantly they get a new lead singer, and how polarizing that can be.
Well,
so it's like I can totally see that, because it's all about the performance.
And it hasn't even been 2 years, for us to be talking. This is I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. It hasn't been 2 years. You're right. I mean, use an example, Cesar, but like, you know, Rage Against the Machine is like one of my favorite bands, and they've replaced the lead singer. Like,
oh my god, yeah. You know, Zach is such a crazy guy. I love him so much, but I don't want anybody taking his spot. You know?
No, I get it, but I mean, look, we've gotten what, Chris Cornell, we've gotten like
Sure.
Chuck D, like you know, so
right.
You know, but I understand your point. I totally understand your point. I just think narratively, I'm very curious about what's going to happen here. H Lie says, "Bring Chadwick back, or I'll boycott." I don't think that's possible.
I have a question. Right? How is that going to work?
Yeah, interesting. Okay,
bring him back from the dead.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't think that's going to work. Sorry, Lie. My bad. Well, let's jump over. Okay, we talked a lot about the media stuff, right? We're going to dive into the Bad Batch and Invincible later at the end of the show, right? But let's get into some comics, because that's what we're here for. So, Bader and Cesar are going to give us their picks this week, and Ashton and I as well. So let's do it. Here's What's at Comic Shops.
That is exactly, real quick, that is exactly the sound that plays when I walk into my comic shop. I'm like, we made it again.
Right. That's exactly. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about it, right? That's why we love that. I love that that little piece that Johnny put together. Also, Johnny, too soon, Johnny. Like, I don't know if you guys can see the chat, but Johnny definitely said Weekend at Bernie's. I'll let you figure that out. I'll let you put that together on your own back. Those of you watching at home. Anyway, let's talk about comics. You know what? We got two guests on here, so I'm gonna let you guys go first. What are you picking up this week from your local comic shop? You guys have to fight it out. Who goes first?
All right, I'll go first. Immortal Hulk, for sure. I have been, this is actually something that Bader kind of told me about a while ago, and I slept on it for a little bit, and he's like, dude, this is totally you. Like, you hate everything. You need, and you love horror movies. Why aren't you reading this? And I was like, my knees hurt. It's hard for me to get to the store. Could you get my cough medicine, Bader, please? And, you know, finally, I jumped on board, and the art is amazing. The story is great. I love anytime horror and religion and really mix together very well in this book, which you really don't see coming. It's beautiful. So that, and I'm also going to pick up, this is a new title that I'm actually kind of interested in. Vampirella, The Dark Powers. Like, this is, like, and it's interesting because every time people look at Vampy, they'll say, it's cheesecake. You know, I don't know if I get into it. There's some legit horror going on in Vampirella book. And it's pretty good. And, you know, she doesn't always wear, if you're a fan, you know that she doesn't always wear the cheesecake outfit. Like, she'll have like a full on like flight suit sometimes. And sometimes she teams up with Kiss, and it's awesome. So
right, she does. That's true.
You know, that's pretty much where I'm at.
All right, cool. No, shout out to Vampirella. I actually just started reading that, and I'm actually really enjoying the Christopher Priest book right now. Like, not at all what I expected. Very satirical, but also like just abrupt, like horror elements, like that just seem perfect for this book. So absolutely.
I'm glad to hear Christopher Priest is doing what he does best on Vampirella. Hey, that dude can go to any title and make it like cool. It's like, what can Christopher Priest do? So for me, I'm picking Silver Coin #1. So I technically have it here with me, right? But this is my buddy's copy, because he was smart enough to get up on this when it first came out. I noticed that the second printing is coming out this Wednesday. So for folks, late folks like me, who's turning in a late pass, I definitely, even having read it, it's still so good that I'm willing to go pick up a copy, because I want to support. 2, I love having the physical media. But 3, it's a horror anthology with Chip Zdarsky and Michael Walsh on this first issue. I believe they're going to be kind of having a rotating lineup of collaborators. So I think Kelly Thompson is due to do a story, Ed Brisson, and then even Jeff Lemire. I believe Michael Walsh is going to stay on for art duties. But like I said, it's like a horror anthology for mature readers, and I think each issue tells a different tale within like a shared supernatural universe. And the first issue was, like I said, really great opener. I must have missed out on the fact it was an anthology, because I got a full story in one. I was like, well, where does this go to next? But you kind of learn, you know, it's a shared universe, different stories every time. So highly recommend if you're into horror. Of course, it's an Image title, so it's a great jumping on point with it being a #1. And then my second thing I'm excited for, I decided to go a different route with, a model kit. So I saw previews list that this week a MEGAMAN X-Force armor model kit is coming out, and it's based off MEGAMAN X4, the video game X4, with the protagonist, in his full force armor. And I have made it a very bad habit lately to go into my shop, buy my stack of comics, and then find some ridiculous model kit / toy to also buy on top of my purchase, which usually makes my wallet cry a lot. But especially coming from I believe the line is Kotobukiya. I think that's the name.
Yeah.
Yes. They are fantastic. Like anything they touch, whether it be comic related statues and model kits, they have been fantastic. So to see a MEGAMAN model kit, based on one of my favorite, X titles, it's awesome. So it's going to be another thing I probably hang around here for decoration.
Absolutely. No, like I always see the model kits in the catalog, and I'm always like, they look cool. And I'm like, I don't know what level of model kit this is. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm always wondering, like, is
extremely
it
hard. That's how I go into all of them, assuming extremely hard.
Yeah, like I always wonder if it's just like you just snap in some legs and an arm and like you're done, or is it like I'm gonna have to break out the glue? And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I can't do it. No, absolutely not. I tried that once as a kid with a Batmobile, and it was a failure. So I'm never doing that again.
I won't lie, a majority of them end up. I just display the boxes because when I see the inside, I'm like, that is 1,000 pieces just to build. That is 1,000 pieces just to build a hand. I think the box won't.
That's why you do that?
Yeah, I'm just like,
dude, I thought you were flexing. Like you were just like, this is the box, son.
Right. Like I have a whole separate room of it assembled. This is just the box. Right?
Yeah, like I was kind of like, I get it. You make money, bro. Sweet.
Actually, we did. You guys did 2 horror picks, and actually, I saw a question for Cesar. That like, where is it? Johnny, do we have a question from? What is your favorite horror movie subgenre? Very specific.
The right man, though. You are talking to the right man.
Honestly, if there's a subgenre that I enjoy, I would say probably psychodramas. If that's a thing, I think you could put Darren Aronofsky and you could put Ari Aster in any of the films that they make into that sort of thing, where it's like more or less the drama of the horror, right? So I guess that's been my answer to that guy's question.
Okay, no, and that's kind of tough to pull off, right? Like, I mean. You're talking about like Black Swan, that type of thing, like that would be psychological horror. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Midsommar, Hereditary, for sure.
Yeah. Midsommar was very frustrating.
Well, the movie's not really about what's on the surface, right? Like it's the weird drama, and you got to have some heavy, like actors with heavy chops to pull it off. So
true. Yeah, that took a turn. That was an interesting movie for sure. Ashton, what about your pick this week?
Okay, so my pick this week is kind of one of my staples. It's Heartstopper Volume 3. This is one you guys know I kind of like beat home because I love it so much. So this is the 3rd installment in Alice Oseman's graphic novel series. Focuses on Nick and Charlie. It's your like LGBTQ plus slice of life drama. So this one kind of like the first 2 like set up the characters and kind of established who they were and what their sexuality is. This kind of picks it apart. They're on a school trip to Paris. So, you have all of these people out of their element, kind of trying to interact with each other. Nick and Charlie are officially together, but they're not telling anybody. So there's all these weird, intentional and unintentional, like homophobic moments and trying to figure out, are you willing to come out of the closet? What does that mean for, your own relationship? How will it impact, their relationship with each other? And also, like, she sinks her teeth into more serious issues here. Like, she unpacks Charlie's eating disorder and some issues with self-harm. And like I've said before, she does it in a really, really graceful way. I love this series so much. If you guys haven't read it yet and it sounds like something you're into, please do it. I already got my copy. I've also already read it because I'm obsessed, but you love it, I swear.
No, Ashton's ride or die about Heartstopper. Like, she's interviewed the creator of it. Like, she's eagerly looking forward to this new TV show that's coming out. She's all over it.
Oh wow!
So, yeah. Cool. No, nice spread. Actually, none of us picked superhero. Well, I guess technically the Hulk book is kind of a superhero, but not in its current form.
True story.
Right, yeah. Truthfully, I never looked at the Hulk as a superhero character necessarily, but yeah, I'm going to keep it going. I'm surprised, Ashton, you didn't do War of the Bounty Hunters this week. I'm actually a little shocked by that.
I had to look. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, I need to. Like, War of the Bounty Hunters is 34 issues, so I'm gonna have other opportunities. Her books come out like once every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. No, respect that. Give the love to the indie artists. Absolutely. My pick this week, I actually read this morning. Actually, Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal. This is from AWA Upshot, but more importantly, for my purposes, it's by Garth Ennis. So this is actually kind of a departure because I can't say that he hasn't done a lot of books with. He hasn't done any books with female leads, but he doesn't do a lot of them. And so first of all, that was immediately interesting. But also, this is kind of like a really screwed up version of Doctor Who. Like, that's the best way I could put it. Of course, it's Garth Ennis, so it's going to be a little it's going to be a little edgy for sure. But the idea is that she literally is a temporal criminal. She goes back in time and steals whatever she wants, and jumps back to her time headquarters in the middle of like space end time, and they've got an organization that's on her heels, and on top of that, she's kind of a jerk, which is actually kind of amusing. So it's Garth Ennis, of course. He did Preacher and The Punisher, and like artist Goran Sudzuka. Also, that Andy Clark cover, the cover A, absolutely amazing, and turned out to be a lot of fun. I'm actually looking forward to where this goes because Ennis he can go dark, he can go real dark, but he can also mix it up with some dark humor and some comedy, and this seems to be more leaning towards comedy. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Also, he doesn't do a lot of sci-fi stuff. So yeah, this is a lot about this book is kind of a departure for him. So definitely into it. Marjorie Finnegan. Before we jump into a little Q&A with you two guys, right? Let's show everybody what's available at comic shops right now. We've got Anamia, and she's going to give you a rundown of all the big items. We give you a bunch of indie books, right? But now we're going to show you a bunch of the big items that are available at your local comic shop today. So just check this out, and we'll come right back.
Hey Previews World, Mia here with a look at what's at comic shops for the week of May 5th, 2021. So let's jump on in, and happy Cinco de Mayo! For more info on these titles and others, head on over to previewsworld.com/new releases.
All right, and thanks, Anna Mia. She was on the show last week, which is always great, and she'll be back on probably in our future episodes sometime soon. But you can catch her videos featuring what's at comic shops every Monday on Previous World's YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and also you can catch it on Free Comic Book Days TikTok. So definitely check that out. So now let's get to know our guests a little bit more. You guys gave us your geek cred, right? But now we want to know more about the Short Box podcast. So I'm gonna fork it over to Ashton, and she's gonna grill you for a few seconds. How about that?
Bring it on, Ashton.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna start with an easy one. Tell us more about your podcast, the topics you cover, and what people can generally expect from you guys.
Yeah, so just a quick background. The Short Box podcast has been around since 2012, and since then we've explored a really wide spectrum of comic books and pop culture topics. The show is hosted by myself, Cesar, as well as some of our other longtime friends, Ashley, Ed, and Drew. We pride ourselves in providing entertaining discussions about comic books, having candid conversations with the best creators in the industry, as well as providing recommendations that are worthy of our listeners' time. We're a podcast where we welcome the most knowledgeable comic gurus as well as the casual movie fans. We try to have content out there that covers all types of spectrums of fandoms and things like that. We welcome everyone to be a part of the Short Box Nation. That's what we kind of lean on too. Making it we treat our listeners like family and friends. We greet them every episode, and we try to have a lot of fun on our shows as well. So yeah,
good job. That's good.
and your support.
I love the hype. You're like, yeah, good answer, good answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, Potter summed it up. We just want to make it feel like whenever you walk into your favorite local comic book shop, and there's always the regulars, like Cheers. Wow, that's a dated reference.
Oh man,
right on brand, right?
But essentially, yeah, right, exactly. It's essentially that's how we want people to feel when they hear us. Like, oh, those are the old chuckleheads talking. What are they talking about this week?
Right,
It's something that we really try hard to simulate.
I love that because sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I always feel like as someone that was an outsider, like wasn't a lifelong comic book fan, sometimes it can feel like getting into this space can be kind of daunting. So when you make it more like it's a casual thing, that's much more welcoming. So, okay, you mentioned some of the people you interviewed. Troy's been on your podcast as well. So who are some of the notable people you guys have had on and talked to?
Oh man, seeing me, we're just talking about. I think one, speaking about like Endgame and the MCU, one episode and guest that stands out, I think, above many, would be like Peter David. Who's comic book royalty. Well known for Hulk, since we're kind of been talking about it. Yep. But we actually did a live show on the premiere of Endgame at a local theater here in town. It was like packed. We got to introduce the film. And then right after we did a live show, after Endgame, which was kind of like maybe not the best idea because we all had like, teary eyes. Welcome to the Short Box live show. Oh my God. Tony. But we got to do like a live show with Peter David. Man, who else have we had? Like the list now has gotten so long lately.
Easy.
Humbly. But we've had like Jim Rugg on
Jim
the show
Rugg.
of cartoonist kayfabe. We've had Justin Jordan comes to mind most recently.
Abraham Reisman too.
Who wrote The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee.
Yep.
That was a good interview, actually. I just watched that. It actually changed my mind about that book a little bit.
Oh wow.
Same.
Yeah.
I had the same. And he's been one of many guests where, I've maybe had, some idea of maybe what their project is about. But then, we've had them on and the way that they express, the motivation and the work that, I think that's been the best part is whenever we have creators on the show. And Troy, you're amongst that crowd as well. But being able to learn what it takes behind the scenes. A lot of times I think as fans, we see the end product and it's real easy for us to nitpick or kind of
unsubscribe.
Yeah, right. Take it for face value, but what we always try to do when we have guests on is spotlight like the amount of work they put in, the behind the scenes stuff that you might not know, like kind of get a glimpse into the making of, and kind of really understand what the author was trying to go for, or artist in some cases.
Okay.
And one last question, you gave us the broad overview, so kind of drill down a little bit more into like, what is like the format of your shows? Is it like reviews? Is it, topical, kind of how you guys attack what to talk about? Yeah,
so our shows can range. So I think we probably have 3-4 buckets. I think those are the best ways to kind of categorize the shows. We've got interviews where that's all we're going to focus on is our guest of honor. We're going to talk about some exciting new project, whether it be a comic book, maybe a comic related movie or documentary or, video game, whatever it may be. So we've got guest interviews. We also do comic spotlights. We've been focusing a lot lately on doing comic books or spotlights on comic books with correlating like movies or shows. Like recently, this week, we just put out an episode on Jupiter's Legacy. So we all read volume 1 of the comic book and then kind of talked about like our expectations and what we hope to see in the big screen. So we've got comic spotlights like that. Like we did a few for WandaVision. So we covered like House of M. For Falcon Winter Soldier, we did a comic spotlight on Truth, Red, White, and Black.
Oh yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And then I think the third bucket is maybe some of our, I definitely think it's a fan favorite, but our artist spotlight. So what we do is we pick one artist within that has a rich history of comic book work and a full resume, and we just dedicate a whole episode to talking about them.
And artists in the traditional sense as well. So we'll pick writers, colorists, anybody that is an artist in the general sense.
Yeah. So like we recently did one on Brian Boland. We really got a chance to dive into his, his rise to fame and his iconic work. And our next one will actually be about Marie Severin, who is a comic book legend in her own way, but
can't wait.
I don't think is mentioned a lot of times amongst that circle. So our goal for this episode will be to put a spotlight on what she was able to accomplish, for her time as well. So yeah, between comic book reviews and spotlights, guest interviews, artist spotlight episodes, and we'll even sometimes we'll do a whole review recap series on a show. I think the last one we did was The Mandalorian season 2. We would just hop on the mics immediately afterwards and talk about the episodes.
Oh, cool.
So we'll give you a chance to plug this again at the end of the show, but Johnny's been scrolling through your page. Where can people find you?
Anywhere you can find podcasts, anywhere, whether it be Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're available on pretty much all podcast apps. If we're missing one, let me know. We'll get on there.
We're so good at this.
Learned it from the best. Shout out to you, Stan Lee. But I think the easiest one right now would be to go to theshortboxpodcast.com. You can listen to our episodes directly there, and there's a list of directories for other podcast apps there too.
Yeah, no, it's my new favorite show, guys. Like, it really is. Before I became on, I definitely did a little bit of backtracking, but then I ended up missing that episode about the guy who did the Rise and Fall Stan Lee, and I caught that. Yeah, and I caught that about a week ago, and I was like, all right, you know what? I prejudged this, and this interview has actually made me kind of reevaluate. Maybe I should actually read this book. So mission accomplished. Good job.
Thank you very much.
That means a lot.
Absolutely. Ashton, do you want to give the bad news?
I gotta be the bearer of bad news.
I mean, you kind of have to be. We decided to switch up, so Ashton's going to handle news from now on the show, and every now and then that means that she has to talk about someone who passed away. So, you want to take over, Ashton, and run with this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll do the deed.
Yeah.
So John Paul Leon passed away recently on Sunday, I should say, to be more specifically, at the age of 49 after battling cancer for more than a decade. Original artist, best known for pencils on Static and his work on Earth X and The Wintermen. He graduated from School of Visual Arts with a bachelor's degree in 1994 and went on to become one of the most celebrated artists in modern comics over the course of his 25-year career. So it's a big loss. Some folks in the comic book community weighed in. Jim Lee said, John Paul Leon passed away yesterday at a way too early age of 49, one of the greatest artists of our generation. He was also one of the nicest and most talented creators one could be lucky enough to have met, so young and still creating the very best work of his career. And Walter Simonson said, to some extent, he was an example of the old Thomas Edison euphemism. Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, except that in John Paul's case, I'm pretty sure it was more like 50-50 or maybe 60-40. So he will be missed in this community.
Yeah. You guys familiar with John Paul Leon's work at all? Or?
Oh, sure.
I think last year I started diving into those that Static series, from the very first one from Milestone, and that artwork still holds up. It is amazing, man. Like if you're, I think if I had recommended it to a buddy who really likes, Hellboy and Mike Mignola, I felt like there was, they were kind of within that same orbit. But there is he did a short story called Black Death in America that Tom Taylor had posted, or Tom King, I apologize, had posted on his Twitter in full. And it's like an 8-page story, I think. And it's Eisner nominated, like that's how good that guy was. Like, absolutely.
Okay. Wait, did Tom King write it, or John Paul Leon did the whole thing, or?
John Paul did the art, and then Tom King did the writing. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever really noticed his work was actually in New X-Men. He did like one issue for Grant Morrison's New X-Men. And I realized I had seen this guy's work before. I just it's like the first time that it actually been cemented in my mind. Condolences to his family, and 49 is like super young, like crazy young. I thought about this past these last couple of days. I was like, if you're a fan of guys like Alex Maleev or Tommy Lee Edwards, you'll probably like John Paul Leon. I feel like they fall into that category. He was really good on crime books too, which I think is something they both excel at, as well as It's like just like Tommy Lee Edwards and Alex Maleev. So yeah, if you're a Batman fan, there's plenty of like his Batman art to look at. So definitely check that out and pay your respects. And like we always say, when someone passes away in the comic game, right? Like they've been immortalized. Like their work is going to live forever, which is the best way to look at these things. So yeah, definitely pick up some of their stuff and check it out. Some of his stuff and check it out. All right, let's switch gears. Let's get a little bit more upbeat. Let's go to something extraordinary. Titan Comics has a new series out this week at your local comic shop. It's called Extraordinary. It's from V.E. Schwab. It's from her series of books. Check out the trailer, and when we come back, I'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's go.
I do whatever it takes to set me free. I do everything to get what I need. I do whatever it takes to set me free. I do everything to get what I need. I do whatever it takes to set me free. I do everything to get what I need. The time is now or never. Cause nothing lasts forever. The time is now or never.
All right, and that's Extraordinary from Titan Comics. This is actually in the middle. So V. Schwab does a bunch of fantasy novels. She has a book, two books in particular, Vicious and Vengeful. This story takes place in the middle of those books. So if you're already a fan of those books, then you definitely should check this out because it kind of bridges the gap between. But this is also a new series. So this is issue 0 of a new series from Titan Comics. And the first issue is $1. So you kind of have no excuse not to pick it up. Like it's kind of perfect for people who just want to jump on and find out about this stuff for the first time, this book for the first time. So yeah, check that out at your local comic shop right now. All right, top 5 time. This is my favorite part. I love this. All right, this is either going to get really yelly or hilarious. That's usually how these things go. All right, let's do it. Top 5.
All right, mostly this just stresses me out because people just provide a random list of 5 things and we have to figure out what it is they're talking about. We asked you guys.
I did make them. I made sure to clarify. Like you guys have to tell us what the topic is.
Sure.
So
usually people are just like they'll just do like 5 things that aren't related. It'll be like Han Solo, Sonic the Hedgehog, like and just go down like.
I bet you somehow, some way, there's a connection between Han Solo and Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. I'll get back to you on that.
Let me know. All right, so we asked you guys to give us your top 5, hopefully labeled, favorite nerd things. It doesn't matter what it is. It just needs to be nerd adjacent. Tell us your 5 favorite whatevers, and we will discuss. So let's see what you guys said.
Okay.
Dave says top 5 fictional firearms. 5 is the Lawgiver, 4 is the Phaser, 3 is the DL-43 heavy blaster. Very specific. I appreciate that. 2 is the PD 2019, and 1 is the M41A1 Pulse Rifle. Man, these are very
solid.
Perfect.
Solid.
That was good. Okay, that was good. Shout out to you, Dave.
Chris says top 5 best pieces of Star Wars media. Oh God.
Oh whoa. Uh-oh. Here comes the yelling.
This is it. There's the hot topic.
Oh man. 5 is Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. 4 is Rebels. 3 is the prequels and the sequels. Interesting. 2 is the expanded universe. And 1 is of course the original trilogy.
Ash is not going to miss an opportunity to throw shade, like when it comes to Star
Wars.
I'm not. What else we got?
Douglas says top 5 sci-fi crushes I've ever had. I love this.
Okay.
5 is Shiva from Mortal Kombat 3. 4 is Foley from Star Trek Enterprise. 3 is Romana from Doctor Who. 2 is Kaylee from Firefly. And 1 is Gemma Simmons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Interesting.
Shout out to that Mortal Kombat spot. Like,
what? Right.
My favorite thing about these, okay, here's we go. I mean, like, I know what this is, but I'm like, can't you just label it? 5 is Adam West, 4 Christian Bale, 3 Michael Keaton, 2 Ben Affleck, 1 Kevin Conroy. That feels like a hot take somehow.
I'm gonna say I actually totally respect that. Actually,
I kind of do too. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally respect that.
Billy gave us his top 5 greatest robots: Terminator, Gundam, Voltron, Megazord, and Optimus Prime.
Okay.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid.
Justin says he's giving us his top 5 comic book names that aren't actually comic book adaptations. This is great.
Oh,
5 is Fury, War Machine, Black Widow, 1987, The Runaways, 2010, and 1 is Nightcrawler.
That's so creative.
That's the one.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Wait. So the only one I don't know is War Machine. Like, Cesar, you're like a movie guy. Do you know what that is?
Wait, I do not know War Machine.
I don't know War Machine either.
I'm sorry. I'll make something up. Nicolas Cage is in it.
You have a 50-50 shot with that.
It's possible.
Anytime.
I made a film called War Machine. It's wonderful. You guys should watch it. Beautiful film. Outstanding.
No, okay, all right. Yeah, I was like, that's the only one I don't know. I know Fury. I'm assuming that's the Brad Pitt movie, the tank movie. Yes. And I know Nightcrawler is very good, and like that's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
And I've actually never seen Black Widow, but I know what he's talking about. So yeah, the only one I didn't know was War Machine. Like, yeah, if you guys know, let us know in the comments. I've never heard of that movie before. What is it? So Johnny's got it up. What is this? We're looking at War Machine. What year is this? 2017. Okay, it's fairly recent.
Okay.
Oh, I did see this. I saw this.
I have no knowledge of this whatsoever.
Yeah. I did see this.
What the hell?
Yeah, this was like a Netflix original thing, right? Yeah. It was like kind of like a satirical war movie, like with Brad Pitt, like, rocking the Southern accent, which he seems to be really good at. So, what about you guys? Let's get into your top 5s. What's going on over here?
I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Kick it off,
I feel like mine's a boring one, and then Cesar can come through with this epic one. So I've been reading. No surprise. I've actually kind of surprised. I have found time to read my stacks that I get from the comic shops. So I've been reading more comic books, and of course the podcast always gives me a reason to dive into like older stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and make a list of the top 5 comics we've recently spotted on the podcast, because I feel like we've kind of hit a really good stride of revisiting some like really good, like solid comic stories that hold up, that kind of like, I don't know, really good ones. So I'll go ahead and start off with at the number 5 spot is Batman Mad Love, being able to revisit, the 1994 Eisner Award winning comic by the two greats, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. I'll go ahead and say at number 4 would be Swamp Thing, Earth to Earth. It was a 2-issue story arc written by Alan Moore, art by Rick Veitch and John Totalbin. It's about Swamp Thing saving his girlfriend from Batman. I mean, like,
really interesting.
Yeah, that's great. At number 3 is House of M. I mean, the Brian Michael Bendis, Olivier Coipel? Olivier. Yes. Yeah. Classic. I feel like if there was the same energy that the MCU kind of gives you of that blockbuster superhero feel, that's how I feel House of M is. It's kind of like that blockbuster comic event before it became, watered down comic event every 2 months.
Right, yeah.
So House of M at number 3. And then my number 4 slot would be Truth, Red, White, and Black by Robert Morales, Kyle Baker. Introduces the character Isaiah Bradley, who we got to see in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Really, just kind of grips at your heart, man. A lot of emotional storytelling going on in that. And of course, Kyle Baker adds some levity with his artwork. And then my number 5 slot, the one that we just recently did, Jupiter's Legacy. I got a chance to revisit that first volume by Mark Millar and Frank Quietly. And I've got high hopes for the show. Like, I forgot how much I really enjoyed Jupiter's Legacy, the comic book. So those are my top 5.
No, that's I loved Jupiter's Legacy. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed it. I think people like to consider Mark Millar like a cynical, like saucy hot take kind of like approach. But it's such a love letter to superheroes, but it's also kind of like its own thing too, which I think is cool. So
he is definitely, he knows how to do edgy really well. I think it's kind of his trope, But let's not get it mixed up. That dude knows how to write comic books.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
He knows how to write comic books and sell them. Like we always talk about. I've gone on the show and said, to me, Todd McFarlane is, I would argue, is like the Michael Jordan of comic books when it comes to like his career. But Mark Millar, the more I think about what he's accomplished in such a short amount of time, I mean, the dude knows what he's doing as well.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, C?
All right. So I have, for the longest time, professional wrestling has been inside a Venn diagram of my circle. Okay. And I have tried so hard to get into it and I couldn't. For the longest time, I was like, I really want to be into this, guys, but I can't, until I found out how old professional wrestling is. Like, we're talking 1920s Great Gatsby old. Okay. All the way back they were, and it's all kayfabe even back then too. Like from the jump was supposed to be a performance, completely scripted and choreographed, and it's all about the performance. And that was like, wait a minute. Now hold on, because the strongman in the circus act has direct ties to Superman, because that's why he wears his underwear on the outside. He's trying to, mimic the strongmen of that day. Holy crap, wrestling and comics have a lot in common. I think, man. So that said, I've recently been starting to watch a lot of these matches, trying to play catch up as best I can. And my top 5, bingo. My top 5 list comes, it's basically the top 5, in my opinion, wrestling intro music. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I love
and this is, now, mind you, this is from a novice, so be gentle. If you guys are professional wrestling fans, please be gentle with me. This is my list. All right, number 5. All right, we're gonna go from lowest to highest. Number 5 is Randy Orton voices. Okay.
Okay.
Above him, coming in at number 4, is John Cena. The Time Is Now.
Of course.
Okay.
Classic.
Okay. Number 3 is Triple H, The Game, because my boy Lemmy.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Okay, this is where it's gonna get a little weird. Number 2, Kane. All right, that's gotta be Kane.
Oh, yeah. All right, it's gotta be Kane.
All right, number 2,
solid.
Fire. All right, now here's where it's gonna get really weird. I know there's a lot of history, and I know someone else could easily be like, bro, this number 1 spot should be different. But for me, the music that gets me pumped hardest, especially when she gets in the ring, I don't think she's wrestling anymore. Becky Lynch's Celtic Invasion. Holy moly.
Okay.
It is so energetic. Just as soon as I hear the drums, whoa, I'm like, yes.
Okay. No, okay. Respect that. Like, I feel like a good entrance, a good wrestling entrance always has like some sort of sound that makes you kind of like, oh, well, like makes you snap at attention. Right? Like, I mean,
what about the Undertaker? Like the bells?
The bells, right?
Undertaker almost made my list, but I had to base it on how I felt as soon as they like rolled in there. Trust me, I'm a huge metalhead. Like, I'm the big Mark for the Undertaker, like big Mark. But I gotta give it to my girl Becky. She gets me moving. Like, oh my gosh, yes, please, I want you to win and dominate.
Actually, going back to your number 2 real quick, there is a version of Kane. WWE did this like hip hop album called Aggression.
Oh my God.
And there is a version of the Kane song by the East Siders. And it is excellent. Like, it is like so good. Like, it could be its own single. Like, it was just that good.
Were the East Siders the dudes that ran with Bone Crusher?
Were they?
I'm not sure, but
you know what? Actually, I think you might be right about that. Actually,
say with confidence.
Oh yeah, you're right. They are the ones that ran with Bone Crusher and the 2003 hit single "Up in the Club."
Up in the Club. There you go. Also, Kane is 2 for 2 because there's also a Finger 11 song that they redid for Kane that's absolutely great.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
If you ever want to check those out, I'll send them to you because I think they're awesome. Like,
please do, because I have fallen in this hole and there is no hope for me, to the point I'm like, for real. My wife is now like, she had no idea how theatrical professional wrestling was, and I'm totally blowing up her spot right now. I'm sorry. She was like, wait a minute, like, I know they're not always hitting each other for real, and that the athleticism is very, very, very real, but this is like a script. Like, I don't understand. I'm like, yeah, honey, like, it's kind of cool. It's like, a soap opera, but it's like if bodybuilders could do Shakespeare. Like, this is what we're looking at. It's like the circus. Really? It's all very carnival-esque, and and she fell in too. So now it's like our thing.
Oh, nice.
And I have all my wrestling friends, and again, everybody's gonna be like, "Dude, you should be watching Raw. What you need to do is watch NXT, bro. Why are you watching that?" I'm learning. I'm learning.
All right. Baby steps. Like,
yes.
Their love language at this moment is hitting each other over the face. Steel chairs. It's like,
yeah, I love you. I'll be like, let me tell you something. Yeah, maybe you don't try this sort of thing. Maybe you do. Yeah, Razor's Edge.
I definitely had a moment. Oh God, it's so funny you said love languages hitting each other steel chairs. I definitely had a moment a few weeks ago. Like my girlfriend and my fiance and my mom, like, you know, we had dinner or something like that, and my mom said something to me, and I put her in a headlock. It's just something I did. Like I just put her in a headlock. I don't know what it was, and she kind of like fought me back or whatever. And my fiance is like, he does that to me too. Like,
oh my God!
Apparently, my love language
do not represent the views and opinions.
Right? No. I wouldn't recommend it. You can't get away with it with everybody. But like, yeah. So apparently, my love language is pro wrestling as well. Also, I'm such a child that if I hear like a glass shatter, like if I'm at a restaurant and someone like drops a glass or a plate or something like that, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, it's Stone Cold. Like that's the first thing.
And that's the bottom line.
Right. So thanks for sharing, guys. I love those. Those are actually excellent. We got to learn a little bit more about your show, and we got to laugh about some great wrestling interest themes. This is what I love about this, because you never know what you're going to get, so it always works out. All right, let's switch gears before we get out of here. Ashton, what is this week's poll? Okay,
we've got 2 polls, the actual poll, and also I have a personal gripe I'm looking to settle. So we're gonna start with the fake poll first, which is, I mean, you could both answer, but specifically, I want to get your take on who is more overexposed in Hollywood between J.K. Simmons and Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, geez.
Oh boy. Both of them. So I think Sam Jackson has had the luxury of being an actor for a very, very, very long time. And this is a deep cut for any horror fan out there. Sam Jackson was in The Exorcist Part 3, and they redubbed his voice, which was probably why nobody knew he was in it. So that's how long he's been like in the game, like in as far as like characters. But J.K. Simmons, I feel like he's one of those dudes that is a chameleon, and he's starting to get more picked up. But as far as overexposure is concerned,
just remember, we got that J.K. Simmons interview next Wednesday.
Yo, it's yeah. Honestly, it might be Sam Jackson, just because I see him in the credit card commercials, and if I hear him say "What's in your wallet" one more time, I think I'm gonna "What's in my kill myself."
But what's in my kill? But I will say this: J.K. Simmons is also doing those farmers insurance commercials.
You're right. You know what? You're right. You're right. That's true. That's true.
And they've both been. It is weird too, because they've both been in Marvel movies.
Yes.
And now I guess for a hot second, I guess J.K. was Commissioner Gordon. So I don't know.
Right. That's right. I keep forgetting about that.
All right. I think a lot of people did. It's okay. So what is the real poll?
Right. Okay. The real poll is concerned with Invincible. It had its season finale over the weekend. So we asked you guys how you felt about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Or were you just completely shocked by it, which seemed to be the going reaction. I'm not sure where this sits now. So I want to ask you guys, have you been watching Invincible?
I have been watching it since episode 1. I was anxiously waiting like for it to premiere, because the comic book is something that is super near and dear to my heart. It's one of the best superhero comic books out there, primarily because it's, you know, one of the very few superhero comics that has ran for that long and has a finite story. You know, it's kind of interesting to dive into that and then go through all of it and know that when you hit the end of it, that is it. And, you know, you got to watch this character grow and the stakes be real. But I thought the show was a great it paid homage to the comics in the right way while still being its own thing. You know, even if you had read if you memorized every single panel from the comic book, the show still threw you for a loop as far as like how they arrange certain sequences, even like some of the slight updates to the characters. I thought the show was fantastic, and I had a shocking number of friends and family admit that, you know, they were watching the show and loving it as much as I do, which wasn't surprising in the sense that something that good wouldn't be in their orbit. I think I was just more shocked that, I was worried that the level of violence and gore that they were happy to lean in on that show would be a turnoff for people. I don't want them thinking that was all the show had to offer. But, everyone that I talked to, that was one of the first things they mentioned was, oh, yeah, it was really bloody. But, man, I teared up at that finale, just getting to watch Mark and Omni-Man and his mom, like, have this relationship and things like that. I'm glad that the heart of the show still shined amidst all the red, very dark and scarring imagery. I'm glad that, people still saw it for, what it was meant to be.
I'm a little saucy with the internet because, like, I already know the nature of the story, right? Like, I already knew about it, having not read the comic, but like they just had a field day with the memes, just dove into the memes so hard. And so, if we have time, we'll take a look at this. But So, Badir, did you watch? Have you watched it at all?
So I've been watching and I saw the season finale and I was like, goodness gracious. I hadn't had the luxury of reading the comic like Botter has. I know that he's been in it for a minute. And to hear you say that your family, I know your family, that I'm just like, we're going to have a little talk afterwards. But yeah, it's, it was one of those titles that I thought, I was like, man, I don't know. This might be one of these, deconstruction type superhero comics, and I'm just not really into. And I've got so much darkness inside my head that I can't handle anymore being crammed in there.
Like the Kane song.
Like, bro, like I know the world sucks. I get it, but this final episode didn't leave me that way. I didn't feel that way. I felt, for as gory as it was, it felt kind of Ditko Spider-Man to me, which is a weird pull. I know, weird pull, but it had those vibrations for me. So I don't know. I dug it.
No, I'm with you on that. Like, I think, one of the reasons I actually didn't read the comic is because I thought it was just Spider-Man. Like, I'll be honest with you. And Ultimate Spider-Man was coming out at the time, so it kind of like already had that fix. You know what I mean? But so you guys are both thumbs up on the finale.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they've already, I guess, been renewed for season 2 and 3. If this level of quality is consistent, if not improving, then I think we're in for a ride.
All right, cool. Well, Johnny, can you pull up the thing? So are you going yes or oh my god? You're not saying no, so.
Yes or oh my god? Yeah, I'm gonna go oh my god. I definitely said oh my god a few times during that finale.
Okay, fair enough.
Amongst other words too.
All right, so it looks like the audience wasn't as blown away, but they definitely loved it. And yes is definitely taking the lead. That kind of tracks with everything else I've seen, and with the responses or whatnot. I wanted to get into the memes, but I don't think we're going to have time. I also wanted to talk about Sweet
We're
Tooth.
Going to get into the memes.
Oh, we're going Johnny's always in. Johnny will make time for the memes. All right, Johnny.
As producer of this train wreck, I will step in where I need to. So I wanted to share these because in addition to the memes that you sent me, Troy, I found another one that just made me laugh out loud. So let's get into them.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank Mark. She's left you on read for 3 days, and she's not sleeping anymore. She's ghosting you.
That one made me literally laugh out loud.
That thinking, it's like the equivalent of all those thinking guy memes.
Beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
Gruesome.
This one was also great. These are my people.
Classic.
Which is doubly funny because it's voiced by J.K. Simmons.
Invincible every episode.
I swear, I was just telling my homeboy, I was like, man, Mark needs to learn how to fight in season 2 and 3 because it's ridiculous how he cannot fight at all.
From the Mark Andre show, Omni-Man, Innocent People. You killed those people, Mark.
That's awesome.
It's so accurate, though. That's so incredibly accurate.
Look what you made me do.
And then, in addition to what you sent me, Troy, I found this, and I think if there was ever a live-action version of Invincible, I want to see this casting.
Oh my God.
Ron Swanson, Jesus.
Wow.
It makes sense. I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
The Viltrumite army is coming for all the bacon. and to teach you amazing woodworking.
Amazing woodworking.
Seriously. Mark, you shouldn't have left the whiskey out. It needs to breathe for only 2 seconds.
No, that finale was pretty impressive. Like, I actually like the fact that they did an animated movie, an animated TV show instead of a live action too. I mean, I get the fan casting, but I feel like there's so much more you can get away with when you're doing animated.
100%. Right.
I wanted to talk about the Sweet Tooth trailer. I want to talk about Bad Batch, but you know what, Ashton, we'll hold off until next week because I know you're watching it, and so we will see what's going on I guess it'll be the second episode by next week. So we'll definitely dive into that. And I would say, me personally, like I saw the Sweet Tooth trailer. I have not read Sweet Tooth, the Jeff Lemire comic, but the trailer really made me curious about like the comic now. Like it took a whole nother vibe. So if you're at home and you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, definitely check it out. It's actually worth watching. Maybe it'll change your mind about the book itself. Like, because it definitely changed my mind about the book. We're about to moonwalk out of here, guys. We're definitely past the hour mark. Let's do a comic shop shout out real quick so we can roll out of here. What do you got, Ashton?
This week's comic shop shout out comes from Ingenious Fans, and it is for Get Ready Comics in Rochester, United Kingdom. So we will show you some pictures of that shop, and they're set up at the end of the show. If you want to shout out your comic book shop, find us on social media, tag your shop. If they don't have a handle, just leave their name and use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS. We will find your post. We will shout out your shop on the show and give them some love.
All right, cool. And I want to remind you guys watching, there is a Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor interview for Invincible Red Sonja that I did. It's been, I floated it back on our timeline so people can catch it because Invincible Red Sonja came out this week. And they give us like a nice little look into the making of that comic and like how they came across it and why they want to do a Red Sonja book and what they think makes Red Sonja special. So definitely check that out. That's on our YouTube, but also it's currently like floating around on Twitter and Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. Also did an interview with the artist of Beckstar. And that's another book that's out this week. That is by Joe Corallo and Lorenzo Caragelli, I want to say is his last name. I might be screwing that up. But definitely check that out. That's also floating around on our timeline right now. So give that a watch. And also, I'm just going to remind you in general, like, follow, subscribe. And that's your Previews World Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
I'm your other host, Ashton Greenwood.
And Badir, and see, where can they find you?
Hit it, bro.
You can go and find the Short Box Podcast on any, if not most, podcast apps, or you can go to theshortboxpodcast.com for a directory there, as well as access to all of our episodes there. You can also follow us on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at theshortboxjax. That's JAX.
All right, cool. And that's it for Previews World Weekly, guys. You know what we always say. We'll see you at the spinner rack, and we'll catch you next time. Catch you later.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.